A long commute or chores to do. All right, it's Tina time. Hooray! Today's episode is sponsored by cucumbers. Cucumbers, thank you for being so crunchy. I'd like to give a huge shout out to the creator Sarah Gallagher. She wrote this book called Why We Love and Hate Twilight, The Highs and Lows of the Twilight Saga. It is such a funny book, and her videos help me piece together the canon, so thank you. Episode 1, Edward versus Jacob. The legendary debate. Oh yeah, that's right, it's Twilight time. The Twilight fandom fascinates and terrifies me. If you'd asked me before, I would have said, well, of course. If Jacob wasn't a werewolf and if Edward wasn't a vampire, then I would choose Jacob because he's nice and Edward's kind of a weirdo. Also, he would be dead at that point because, Spanish flu. Ooh. Anyways. But in Twilight lore, I would have said, oh, obviously, I would have still picked Jacob if he didn't kiss Bella without consent. But now I have an even better idea, which is throuple. But we have to talk about what is canon first so that everybody understands when I give my headcanon. This video will contain major spoilers to the Twilight Saga, so please be warned. I feel so warned. So, the canon of Twilight. We have Bella, she's a human. We have Edward, he's a vampire. We have Jacob, he's a werewolf, but not yet, that's not till later. Bella lived in Forks, Washington during the summers with her dad, Charlie. He's the police cop. Dude. Anyways. So she used to go there every summer, and she was pretty good friends with Jacob, and then she always lived with her mom, Renee. And in this year, she moved back because Renee's husband at this point, is a minor league baseball player. Why are the details of Twilight so weird? I don't know. So, Twilight. Bella moves to Forks, Washington. She meets Edward at school. He's weirded out by her. We don't know why. Yet. Turns out, Edward is a vampire, and he can read minds, but not Bella's?
Does she even have thoughts?
Weird. Also, Bella is what's called a singer to Edward, which is when the blood sings to you. Because apparently vampires, there are certain people where they just have to eat that person. All right. So, as the movie goes along, Bella's like, why is this guy such a weirdo? Also, he watches her sleep, but she doesn't know that, because she's sleeping.
What the what?
Bella is intrigued by this boy. She goes to Port Angeles to bookshop to figure out what's his deal. Edward saves her from some creepy dudes, and then we get to the famous meadow scene. Apparently, the author, Stephanie Meyer, she had a dream of the meadow scene, and Twilight came from that. It's literally like a dream, and now it's a book series, and now it's movies. Like, that's crazy. Anyways. So Bella now knows that Edward is a vampire. Wow. This is the skin of a killer, Bella. The baseball scene, yes! I love the baseball scene. It is so funny. It is so iconic. Whoa! So, James, Victoria, and Laurent show up. They are also vampires, but it's important to note that the Cullens, Edward's last name is Cullen, and his family, they're not his blood family, they're his vampire family. They're what's called vegetarians, which doesn't mean that they don't eat meat. No, in Twilight vampire lore, that means that they eat animal blood and they don't kill humans. So, James, Victoria, and Laurent show up during the baseball scene, and James is like, oh, see that you have a human there. I'm gonna eat her. And everyone's like, no! So they run away, and they save Bella by killing James, which pisses off Victoria because James and Victoria are dating. Well, they're mates, because apparently vampires mate for life. And the end of Twilight is prom. And Bella goes to prom with Edward in her little boot ankle because she broke her leg. They say because she fell through a window, but we all know it's because James tried to kill her. Important to note that if you're bitten by a vampire, but they don't suck all of your blood out, that's how you become a vampire. And James did bite Bella, but Edward sucked the venom out before she turned because he doesn't want her to be a vampire. So that recaps basically what happens in Twilight. Special shout out to the cactus in the first scene. Very funny. Ooh, a cactus. And we are on to New Moon. Blue filter out, warm filter in. Bella has a dream that she's a really old woman. It's weird. She's very weird about aging in this movie because Edward's a vampire and doesn't age. And for some reason, Edward has it in his little head that she's going to stay a human and his perfect little porcelain doll forever. And that she's not going to want to be a vampire. And Bella's like, hello, hi, I want to be a vampire. Yeah. So, it's Bella's birthday.
Yippee!
Yay! Jasper tries to eat her. No!
Oh!
So Edward is like, Bella, I have to protect you. I have to leave. And then Bella is depressed as hell. There's a possibility. So depressed.
Wah, wah.
Now, does Bella actually love Edward, or is it just that vampires are irresistible to humans? Who's to say? But while Edward is away being emo, even more emo than usual, she befriends Jacob more. They fix motorcycles together, and she hangs out on the reservation where he lives. Now, talking about Twilight, it has to be mentioned that why did Stephenie Meyer use a real tribe? And so now people actually trespass on their land. Why would they do that? I don't know. Hey guys, maybe don't and leave the real people alone. They're not werewolves. They're real people. So anyways, New Moon. Bella and Jacob are friends. She's having night terrors. And Charlie is super stressed out. Jacob asks Bella to go to the movies, and Bella invites her other friend Mike because she doesn't want to go alone, because she's like, I love you, Jacob, but I love Edward more. Whatever. They both try to hold Bella's hand. It's really funny. Mike gets sick, so he goes home early. And Jacob is also sick. Or is he? Nope. Turns out he's a werewolf. Ow! Bella encounters Laurent, and she learns about the whole werewolf thing and how werewolves and vampires are enemies. She starts doing all this dangerous shit because she can see Edward when she does dangerous stuff, and he's like, Bella, stop. You have to protect yourself. And is she actually seeing Edward? Is she seeing hallucinations? I don't know. Girl, are you good?
Probably not.
So Bella cliff dives, and Jacob saves her. Now, part of the Cullen clan, there's Carlisle and Esme. They're like the parents, kind of, but they're all basically the same age. There's Alice and Jasper, the Confederate. Alice can see the future, but werewolves and vampires are mortal enemies, so she can't see past Jacob. So she doesn't see Bella's future anymore, and she's like, oh my god, my girl is dead. I need to get back to Forks, lickety-split. So she rushes back to Forks, and she's like, oh my god, Bella, you're alive?
Huh?
And Edward calls him up and is like, hey, so what's the deal with Bella? And Jacob is like, Charlie's planning a funeral. What the heck? Jacob. Why? Oh, why? So now Edward's freaking out and he wants to die because his love is dead, or is she? But the thing about Twilight vampires is that you can't just die. You can't just jump off a building. You can't drown. They don't need to breathe. So what's he supposed to do? But there's this cult called the Volturi. They're not really the royalty. They're not really, I don't even know. They're in charge of the vampires, and their one major rule is, hey, you can't reveal to the humans that you're a vampire, because then the humans are going to try to kill us again. Instead, we're just chilling in our little throne room, and we get to kill a bunch of people, and we get to be in charge, and it's all good and fun and dandy. So Edward is like, perfect, I'm going to go and reveal that I'm a human at this festival, where there's going to be a ton of humans. And the Volturi are like, don't do that, because then we'll have to kill you. And we really like you because you can read minds. Because the Volturi really like people with gifts. Or shall I say vampires with gifts. So Alice tells Bella this. And she's like, hey girl, we gotta go save your man. And Bella's like, oh no. And so then she goes and saves Edward. They reunite. And they're dating again. And Bella really wants to be a vampire, and Edward really wants her not to be a vampire. Bella says she'll wait until after she graduates high school. She asks the Cullens, hey, can I be a vampire? And they put it up to a vote. Also, there's Rosalie and Emmett. I forgot to mention them. They are also Cullens, and I really like Rosalie. She's not mentioned enough. So that was Twilight New Moon. They agree that Bella can be a vampire. Yeah. On to my favorite one, Eclipse. I think it's important to note that I have actually not read the books. I do have the illustrated guide, and I have the book Why We Love and Hate Twilight by Sarah Gallagher, but I have not read the actual Twilight books. I've watched the movies a lot of times, and I love the TikToks. The headcanons are so funny. Like, that the vampires wear wigs because their hair doesn't grow, and they've been alive for so long. So anyways, it's time for Eclipse. Victoria from the first movie, you remember her? It's James's girlfriend. She's fucking pissed because the Cullens killed James. And she's like, well, an eye for an eye, a leg for a leg. I'm gonna go kill Bella. But she can't just kill Bella because the Cullens are there and they're gonna get her because she's only by herself.
No friends.
Now, an interesting fact about Twilight vampires is that when you are first turned into a vampire, for the first 6 months, you are at your strongest and fastest because you still have human blood in you. So, Victoria's pissed, hellbent on revenge. She creates an army of newborn vampires. And Jasper the Confederate gives us his backstory. Apparently, he used to be part of an army of newborn vampires because there used to be a bunch of war and stuff back in the Confederacy days when he first got turned into a vampire, where like a bunch of vampires were trying to take control. So like in this day and age, well, it's the 2000s for Twilight, which is why it's so camp. Anyways, they used to fight. Now vampires are kind of more of a hidden secret hush hush. So, Victoria creates a newborn army. And everyone's like, oh no, we don't want Bella to die. And Jacob also doesn't want Bella to die. So the werewolves and the vampires create this sort of alliance. They want to protect Bella and her dad Charlie. Edward really wants to marry Bella. Bella really wants to be a vampire. And Charlie really wants a daughter to not be obsessed with some weird teenage boy she just met. And also hang out with Jacob, maybe, because he's a nice boy. Whatever.
Oh.
So, the treaty between the Cullen vampires and the Quileute werewolves says that the Cullens can live in Forks if they don't bite any humans and they stay on their side of the river. But when Victoria comes to town, she's too close. Too close. Emmett jumps across the land, and the leader of the werewolf, Sam, is pissed because he's like, hey man, you're supposed to stay on your side. Yeah. So, they're pissed at each other. Bella pretty much knows none of this. Jacob shows up at the school and is like, hey girl, so like, your boy, Emmett, he kind of broke the treaty a little bit, and so now we're all pissed. And Bella's like, ugh, Edward, why didn't you tell me? So she goes with Jacob, and then, yeah, Jacob is like, Bella, I love you, and then kisses her without consent. Bella breaks her hand, punching his face. It's a lot of drama. Charlie breaks up the argument. He knows nothing about how bad it could have gotten, because they could have started fighting. I don't even know. Boo this man. Jacob. Boo. Good God. Okay, so Jacob and some of his werewolf buddies show up to Bella's graduation party because Bella graduates. Yippee! They're going to have to get a new picture frame because they can't possibly hold all those graduation caps now. So Jacob shows up to the graduation party and he apologizes. And the werewolves and the vampires are like, well, we have to keep Bella safe from these vampires. So, yeah, we're going to have to fight. So Bella goes to the area where they're going to fight these newborn vampires because Alice knows where they're going to be. She spreads some blood around to get them all up in a frenzy. And then werewolves smell, apparently. Not good, apparently, to the vampires. So Jacob carries Bella to this tent like a couple miles away so that she'll be away from the fight and safe. And a snowstorm hits. Oh no! And then it's the famous tent scene.
Hey!
The scene where it's so cold and Jacob is a werewolf so he's super warm, but Twilight vampires are cold and also hard as rock. That's a whole separate thing though. So the night before the fight, Edward proposed to Bella with an egregious ring. And she said, yes, I'll marry you, Edward. I'm so excited. Anyways, so Bella's like, I don't want to distract Jacob with that, so we're going to keep that on the hush-hush. Yeah. So the tent scene. It's super cold, so Jacob and Bella have to cuddle to, like, survive, obviously. She may need her toes someday. And while Bella is sleeping, Jacob is like, so Edward, what would happen if Bella chose me instead of you? And Edward's like, I don't know, guys. What do you think, chat? So Edward says, well, I love Bella so much and I want her to be happy. If she chose you, I would let her go. That morning, the morning of the fight, Edward's like, good morning, Mrs. Cullen. And Jacob's like, what the fuck? You're marrying him? Why? And Bella loves Jacob. Bella loves Edward. It's a whole thing. Jacob is pissed. And Bella's like, kiss me. And he does. And he's like, well, I'm still pissed. I'm gonna go die. No, don't die, Pookie. So after the whole fight, Jacob gets super injured during the fight. After the fight, of course, that's when the Volturi show up. And they're like, yeah, let's go kill Bree. The random girl that's a vampire that really did nothing wrong. Yeah. Jacob is super injured, and Carlisle's like, let me re-break your bones and reset them, because werewolves' bones heal super fast. Yeah. And Jacob is super emo, is like, Bella, just get all the breaking done with now. Implying his heart, because his heart is breaking. That's actually not even the wildest thing about Twilight. I want to talk about my headcanon, so we're just going to speed run the rest of Twilight real quick. The Renesmee plot. So, Bella and Edward get married. They have relations, and Bella becomes pregnant. And she has a half-human, half-vampire child. Yeah. And Bella becomes a vampire because she almost dies giving birth to this abomination, rotisserie chicken. So the Volturi show up and are like, hey, you can't have an immortal child. And they're like, hey, she's not an immortal child. She's half vampire, half human, an immortal child. So if you're turned into a vampire, you have to be able to control your thirst a little bit and not just kill everybody you see. And you have to keep the secret that you're a vampire. So if a baby is turned into a vampire, they can't do that. And that's been an issue before, and the Volturi had to deal with this. So they're like, hey, you can't do that. And of course, the most controversial thing about Twilight is that Jacob imprints on Renesmee. What is imprinting? That is a werewolf thing where it's not exactly about love, but it usually is. But it's just that that's your person. That is your person. You would do anything for them. You'd be anything for them. Jacob imprints on Renesmee. Weird as hell. And he's like, yeah, it wasn't you, Bella. It was Renesmee this whole time. Yeah. But the greatest plot twist in human history is in the movie, because it wasn't in the books, so everybody freaked out when they first saw it. Alice shows a vision to the Volturi about how they're gonna die if they go through with this fight. And, like, Carlisle dies, and, like, a lot of big main characters die, and everyone's like, what the fuck just happened? But it's fine, because it turns out it was just a vision Alice was showing this whole time. Happy ending, kind of anticlimactic, but Edward and Bella can go be boring together, and Renesmee can grow up because she grows faster because she's a half vampire. Her and Jacob can go be boring together, yes. So, now that Twilight has been recapped, and hopefully that explained a lot of important things to everybody, it's time to talk about my theory. Yay! Twilight, but throuple. Here's how I see it going down. Okay, so Twilight still happens, New Moon still happens. Basically, everything is still the same up until the tent scene of Eclipse, where Jacob is like, Edward, if Bella loves me more, will you let her go? And Edward's like, yeah, because I just want her to be happy, even though it would devastate me. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Here's how I see it. Bella was fake sleeping that whole time. She wakes up and she's like, guys, you know what would really make me happy? If we were all dating each other and Edward and Jacob are both like, okay. Anyways. Jacob asks the most important question. Bella, do you still want to be a vampire? Bella says yes. Conflicted with his hatred for vampires and his love of Bella, Jacob still goes to the fight and he still gets injured, just like in the movies. Sorry guys, I haven't read the books. Just like in the movie, Carlisle re-breaks and fixes his bones. The vampires and werewolves are still a little weird around each other, but they're like, hey, they helped heal Jacob, and like we saved Bella, and like the humans didn't die, but we just defeated a bunch of vampires, like it's good. Jacob tells Bella, hey, because of my injury, I've given it some thought, and you know what? I love you so much, and I just want you to be happy. You can become a vampire. Bella says, yippee! Vampire time! So instead of the whole Renesmee plot, and instead of a wedding and a honeymoon, we just have Bella and Edward go to Isle Esme to change her into a vampire. It is excruciating, but now she feels like herself, and she's happy. Cut forward a little bit, Bella learns that Jacob is fully healed, and she has to see him. Vampires are very fast, especially newborn vampires. Bella, with Edward in tow, rushes to the reservation and bursts in the door. Now, I'd like to remind everybody, Edward can read everyone's mind but Bella's, and the werewolves can all read each other's mind. Jacob takes one look at Bella and falls to his knees. Edward can hear how deeply, madly he is in love with Bella. He also hears gasps from the werewolves. Jacob just imprinted on vampire Bella. They can't hurt her. Werewolf law says you can't harm an imprinted person. They don't particularly want to hurt Edward because the situation is messy. It's worse than Sam, Leah, and Emily, honestly. No more Renesmee, no more Volturi and all that. They might be pissed because a vampire and a werewolf are in love with each other. But the werewolves have to agree. And honestly, I feel like the werewolves would be pretty chill with the Cullens because they're vegetarians, so they might not like those kind of vampires. And if you tell me, but Tina, werewolves can't imprint on vampires, they're natural enemies. Well, you know what? Jacob imprinted on Renesmee, so yeah, there's that. She's half vampire, so that counts. But of course, the funniest thing out of all this is if Jacob turns into a werewolf, right? He sees Edward. He drops to his knees, madly in love. He imprints on Edward. That would be really funny. Now, to close out this episode, I'd like to read my favorite poem, The Orange by Wendy Cope. At lunchtime, I bought a huge orange. The size of it made us all laugh. I peeled it and shared it with Robert and Dave. They got quarters, and I got half. And that orange, it made me so happy, as ordinary things often do. Just lately, the shopping, a walk in the park, this is peace and contentment. It's new. The rest of the day was quite easy. I did all the jobs on my list, and enjoyed them and had some time over. I love you. I'm glad I exist. Thank you so much for listening. Ta-ta!